Hello everybody, this is Sirik1983 and welcome back to Neverwinter Nights. Alright, so let's get our stories caught up with all of our henchmen here, so let's talk to Sharwyn first.
Yes? Is there something you need?
I just want to talk for a while. Talk about what, Kel? I want you to continue your story from before. I suppose I did offer to tell you about my family, didn't I? Well, very well then, Kel, I'll tell you. By my family, I actually mean my mother. She's the only true family I've ever known. I never met my father. He and my mother parted ways before I was born. Mother was an adventurer, you see, a mage in fact, of some skill. This is what other people have told me, however, as mother would never discuss it. She left that life behind along with my father to marry a man of wealth. Why would she do that? As I said, mother wouldn't discuss it. She had far more important considerations, after all, than any adventuring nonsense. My mother wanted wealth. She wanted to live a life of fine jewelry, of carriage rides, and a fine mansion in Blacklake. Her husband was a means to an end. She left behind her magic and instead spent her life spending money. Far more money than my stepfather could ever afford. She didn't care a whit for his complaints so long as he kept providing her coin. When he died unexpectedly, she was devastated, not because he was gone, but because he left behind a mountain of debts. She was terrified at the thought of being poor. What about you? Were you saddened by his death? I never really knew him, to be honest. My mother kept me quite distant, shuttled from one private school to another. She formed a desperate plan, although she rarely saw me when I was a child. Now she had need of me. I was a comely young woman, and she would see me wed to a wealthy bachelor. Not for my benefit, of course, but for her own. I was so meek and accustomed to being ruled by her, I couldn't even conceive of an objection. My mother had her eye on the young Lord Farthington. He would never stoop to marry poor nobility, however, not unless he desired me. I would have to seduce him. Did you? I had intended to. I went to Lord Farthington's estate to attend a party being held in his honor, my mother meaning us to meet. When we arrived, I was awestruck at the size of the hall. There were so many people dancing, I could barely take it all in. The music was so beautiful. I stepped onto the floor and approached the man my mother pointed out. I was very nervous, but the man was handsome and kind and witty. I fell in love with him immediately. My mother grabbed me away from him angrily. Not long later, I had mistaken her directions. It was not Lord Farthington that I had danced with, after all. It was far too late for my heart, however. Who was this man, then? His name was Daelan, a penniless apprentice bard in the service of Lord Farthington. I was utterly in love with him. My mother told me to forget all about him. I couldn't, however, despite the possibility that we might lose everything. So what happened? I had a choice, obviously. Take the path I was expected to and seduce Lord Farthington, or run off with the penniless bard. I should have done one or the other. As it turned out, I made a mess of everything. Being a young fool, I suppose that could be expected. I'll tell you what happened sometime later, perhaps. Let's just continue on with what we were doing, shall we? Alright. There we go. That's a second one.
I hoped that you would return, so I waited here. I've hardly damaged anything since you left. I thought you'd be proud. May I join with you once more, my friend?
Yep. Alrighty. Well, let's hear hers.
Hey there, dear.
Tell me more about your story. I appreciate that you have waited patiently to hear more of my story. I think we have gone through enough together to warrant a deeper level of trust. I just ask that you don't make fun of me, since this was such a dark blot on my name. Many years ago, a cleric performed a service for the people of Evereska by uncovering a drow plot to destroy the city. Sayanine Moonbow came and presented the priest with a silver goblet. And that is what was stolen? Yes, the thief stole it right out of the temple and managed to sneak out of Evereska. No small accomplishment there. The other priests were frightfully mad. Only the head priest was willing to concede that it could have happened to someone else, but of course it didn't. It happened to the person that broke the head off the golden statue of Corellin. I didn't know what to do, so I stayed up all night praying to Sayanine to guide my path. The goddess heard my prayer, and just before the first ray of light broke the dark, I was granted a vision. What happened in the vision? I saw myself leaving Evereska and going on a long journey. At the end of the journey, I returned with the chalice. The trip itself was a blur. I had no idea where to go, other than north and west. When I told the priests of my vision that would take me far away from them, they held a cheerful celebration in honor of my sacred quest. It was the first moment in my life when I felt I truly belonged. Yes, I'm sure they were very happy for you. But now they will never welcome me back to their city. My quest has failed. We can find it, Linu, if we work together. No, you don't understand. No one will ever understand. I shall be an outcast for life. Please, Kel, I should not have said so much. We will talk more about this later, but not now. Alright, well, alright. Talk to Grimgnaw.
I have been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Is there something you need?
Just want to talk for a while. I want you to continue your story from before. Very well, Kel, I have been reluctant to speak of my time at Mithril Hall, but you will not let the matter at rest. When Bruenor Battlehammer reclaimed the throne at Mithril Hall not 20 years ago, it kindled a fierce racial pride in all the dwarves of the north. I was one of many who flocked to Bruenor's banner, one of many who came to battle the denizens of the Underdark and drive them from the mines beneath Mithril Hall. But they wouldn't accept you, would they? This was long before I joined the Order of the Long Death, and at first Mithril Hall welcomed me, for even then I did not fear death, and I was eager to inflict it upon my enemies. There were many among Bruenor's followers who shared my love of battle and the reckless fury with which I slaughtered my foes, but none of them appreciated the terrible beauty of what was all around us. Have you ever heard the glorious chorus of screams of dying drow echoing in the chambers of a dwarven mine? Or perhaps in battle to taste the palpable spectre of death descending on the field like a cool mist? Have you ever stood over a dying comrade, drinking in his pain and fear as his life bleeds away, gazing into his eyes to glimpse the terrible understanding shining through in the final instant death claims him? Can't say I've had the pleasure. After the battles, I would walk among the scattered corpses, fascinated by the truth of their deaths. The others found it disturbing, I knew, but I couldn't stop. The compulsion was too strong. And as I wandered amidst the twisted, mangled bodies and gazed into the masks of agony forever frozen on their faces, I understood. Drow, Duergar, Dwarf, in death we are all the same. In death we are all perfect. I tried to share my revelations with my brothers in arms, but they could not understand. They only looked at me with horror and disgust. They were weak, Grimgnaw. They couldn't dare to face death like you. I left Mithril Hall shortly after my revelation in search of something. I found the Order of the Long Death. I suppose I cannot blame my fellow dwarves for the reaction. The acceptance of death is not easy. Even among my order, there are those who cannot face the Silent Lord when their time comes. What do you mean by that? I'm sorry, Kel. I should not have said anything about this to you. This is a matter that must be solved by those of my order. You can tell me, Grimgnaw. Maybe it's something I can help you with. This is not the time to speak of this, Kel. Let us return to our mission. And yeah, that's all he's willing to share with us. Alright, let's go talk to Daelan now.
I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yes?
I want you to continue your story from before. In the time we have been together, you have respected my request for privacy, Kel. Now I feel I am ready to tell you the rest of my tale. I mentioned my exile to you before, Kel. The truth is, I did not willingly leave the Uthgardt to come to Neverwinter. The tribe cast me out. I am a monstrous half-breed. As a child, it was obvious my blood was tainted. I was violent and savage. It was only because of the pleas of my mother that the tribe did not slay me as an abomination while still an infant. Do they hate you so much just because you were different? You don't understand. Not only am I different, I am half orc. The orcs are my tribe's most hated enemies. For generations they have warred with the Uthgardt. How could my tribe welcome me when I am a living reminder of their worst foe? What about your father? I never knew my father. My mother never spoke of him, though I saw the pain in her eyes whenever I asked, but where the pain came from I could not say. Some in our tribe said he was a vile beast who forced himself on my mother during a raid. Others claimed my mother loved him and welcomed him to her bed, then wept when he was murdered by the warriors who discovered them. The truth I shall never know, for it died with my mother last winter. At her death, the tribe cast me out. Can you blame them? Why waste good provisions on a half-breed bastard yet to prove himself in the world? That's horrible. They had no right to do that. I bear my tribe no ill will. They had little choice. Until I prove myself, they cannot be certain where my loyalties lie. Once I show the spirit of the Uthgardt is pure within me, the Red Tiger tribe will welcome me back. And it is not as if they abandoned me in the cold. They gave me food and weapons before they sent me out into the world to prove myself, and a sacred talisman of the tribe once carried by my mother. Forgive me, Kel, but I cannot speak of this anymore. It is too painful. I want to help you, Daelan. I thank you for your kind offer, but there is little you can do for me right now. Please, Kel, the things I said before, the words were, this is not the time to speak of such things. Perhaps later I will speak more of this, but not now. Alrighty, so I think that's all the time I have for this video, so I guess in the next video, I guess I'll get caught up with Boddyknock's tale there, and then I'll probably rehire... Actually, no, I'll probably come back and hire Daelan as my henchman, and then we'll go start gathering up all the side quests en route to, well, wherever Erebeth directs us. Alright, so this is Sirik 1983 signing off. Have a good one.